Hey, what's up? It's Prisha, and today I wanted to share with you my transfer story. So just for some context, I did not go to uni straight out of high school. I first went to community college, and now I am going to be transferring as a third year to UC San Diego. So today I wanted to share what I did that got me into not just UCSD, but UCI, USC, and a bunch of other great schools. Now, just as a disclaimer, this is not a how-to video. This is not how to get into UCSD or how to transfer to UCSD or some other schools. There's no single approach that works for everyone. Instead, I'm just going to be sharing my personal story, what I did that I believe worked, what got me into all these schools. So even though not all of this may apply to you, I believe this video can still be useful for you because you get to hear another perspective, what worked for someone else, and you might be able to apply some of the same techniques in your own life, even if the exact mechanics are a little bit different. So with that, if you're excited to hear my transfer story, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Alright, so to make this video easier, I've broken it up into different chapters. First, I'm gonna talk about my background, like where I was in high school, why I chose to go to community college instead of straight to a university. And then I'll talk about my academic journey once I was in community college, such as what classes I took, what extracurriculars I did, everything that I ended up putting on my transfer application. And finally, I'll share my results, where I ended up getting in, where I ended up not getting in, and why I ultimately chose UCSD. So with the timestamps in the video, hopefully it'll be a little easier to follow along. Alright, so now let's go ahead and start with my background, starting from when I was in high school. So when I was in high school, I was a pretty okay student. I had a 3.5 GPA, but it was weighted, so I didn't exactly do the best job with AP classes or anything that might have boosted my GPA to over 4. And the other thing was that I went to a very competitive high school where everyone went straight to a 4-year university, and the idea of going to community college and then transferring was almost unheard of. With such a stigma around going to community college, as well as my poor GPA that made it really difficult for me to get into some really good universities, I felt very conflicted despite community college actually being a very good option for me. I understand most people go to community college and then transfer to save money, but I actually didn't have that financial concern, especially since going to that really competitive high school and coming from an upper middle class family. I was so hell-bent on going into a 4-year school straight from high school. However, finances also did play a role in my ultimate decision to go to community college because I didn't want to be spending 30 to 40K a year, or should I say my family. I didn't want my family to be spending 30 to 40K a year on my education when I myself was pretty undecided on what I actually wanted to study in college. So I figured by going to community college, I wouldn't be wasting any of my family's money, and I would have time to explore myself and figure out what I truly wanted to do in life. So with that, I made the financially wise decision and academically the best decision for myself by enrolling in Palomar College straight out of high school. Now I'm going to share what I did once I actually got to community college. So like I said, I came out of high school pretty indecisive on what I wanted to study and make into a full-time career. But I ended up majoring in computer science because that was the major, that everyone does, because that is what guarantees everyone an entry-level job, and then they'll get a 6-figure salary from the get-go. So I figured it couldn't hurt to start with that, even though I wasn't entirely sure that's what I wanted to study. And I also came out of high school with a very diminished confidence that I could make it, that I could succeed. So with low self-esteem and also taking hard classes from the get-go, everything felt so tough, and I didn't really feel like I could do it. I could push myself, challenge myself, because I tried that in high school and I failed. But after making a few friends in my classes and having my family believe in me, I was able to have a switch in mindset in time for me to study hard and find the right study strategies that worked for me in all my classes and end up performing really well in them. Eventually, after the first semester of getting good grades, my confidence went up and up more and more. So I was able to continuously get good grades now that I had a shift in mindset. That was in the classroom. Now what about what I did outside the classroom? So I joined my school's chapter of the International Honors Society for 2-year colleges. It's called Phi Theta Kappa. Not my school's chapter. Phi Theta Kappa is the name of the International Honor Society for 2-year colleges. But I specifically joined my school's chapter, Alpha Omega Rho. And my first year in community college, I was already serving leadership. I was the vice president of service, so I was in charge of community service events, and basically just making sure we doing projects that are good for the community, as well as strengthening our chapter's relationship with the college administration as well as the campus as a whole. Sounds all fancy and stuff, but it wasn't exactly directly related to my major. But the reason I did it was because I was very open-minded, and like I said, I wasn't sure whether CS would be the thing I wanted to go toward. So it was a very generalized leadership kind of extracurricular activity, and I ended up really enjoying it and making a lot of good friends there, so it's something I stuck with. And around the time that I was really establishing my place in PTK, I also started to become more decisive about what I wanted to study. And that is data science. I know it's still pretty similar to CS, but the reason that I wanted to switch to data science as my major from computer science was because data science is more specialized in the field of AI. And with my fascination with AI and the rise of ChatGPT and implementing AI into businesses and from all these YouTube videos I've been seeing, it was no doubt the field or the career I wanted to get into. So around the end of my first year of college, I not only was on track to stepping up in my role as a PTK officer, but I also had a clear decision about my academics. Summer rolled around and I was still pursuing data science, and then the returning officers from PTK all had a meeting, and after a bunch of discussions, I became the chapter's newest president. I served as the president of Palomar's PTK chapter from the 2024 to 2025 academic year. So I ended up supervising a lot of things, but honestly, I loved every second of it. I ended up making huge progress both in and out of the classroom, because in the classroom, I was taking the coursework needed to get into the UC schools for the data science major. Outside the classroom, I had this one extracurricular, even if it wasn't related to my major, it was one extracurricular I consistently stuck with, and I was building up my place in it, my leadership role, which is something that colleges care about a lot more than just having a bunch of random ECs around the place that you might not even care about too much. Second year of college rolled around, and now was the time to actually start applying and writing my personal statements for the UC application, and also make sure that my courses would transfer over. So there were two different sections I had to consider, one being my actual major requirements, for which I went to assist.org and selected each UC campus with my major, or with my community college, and then choosing my major and making sure the specific classes I took lined up with the specific courses over there at the university. And the other was IGETC, which is the curriculum that you need to follow as a community college student for your courses to transfer over, or for your GE courses, your general education transfer or courses to transfer over. These are specific to the UCs. I know a lot of people apply to Cal States as well. I actually did not. So Cal States have their own curriculum for GE requirements, but you can still use assist.org to verify the requirements between your community college and the Cal State school. I asked literally everyone I knew for feedback on the personal statements. I asked people I knew from Palomar who already transferred out. I asked family, friends, I asked my parents. And once I got enough perspectives and peer review of my written responses, I kept editing them, and until it felt like my voice, it felt like the right thing to say, an accurate reflection of who I am as a person and why I'm a good fit for the UC system. If you want a separate video where I actually read those PIQs that got me into these schools, let me know in the comments down below. But then it was November of 2024 and I submitted my application, and then I applied to a few more non-UCs like USC, the University of Miami, and a bunch of schools that had their own application requirements that didn't follow like a built-in system like the California Community College to the UCs does. So I continued those applications all the way through March, and then April is when decisions started rolling out. All right, now it's time for the fun part, where I ended up getting in. So the first UCs to come out in the month of April for transfer were in 2025 were UC Riverside and UC Irvine. I got waitlisted at UCR, but I got into UCI, which made me believe that the reason I got waitlisted at Riverside was yield protection. But yeah, I honestly am cool with it. Like Irvine was one of my top choices. I applied to every UC except Davis, Merced, and Santa Cruz. I think I applied to the remaining 6. Yeah, I applied to UCLA, Berkeley, San Diego, Irvine, Riverside, and Santa Barbara. Yeah, so 6. Santa Barbara was my tag or transfer admission guarantee, so I was able to meet the requirements to get guaranteed admission for the statistics and data science major at UCSB. So that was like, it came out in the middle of the month. I don't remember whether Berkeley or Santa Barbara came first, but I got rejected from Berkeley. And then the last 2 UC decisions to come out in that month were UCSD and UCLA. UCSD came out a couple hours before and I got accepted. And then UCLA I didn't get in. And then in the month of May and June, very late, by the time I had already committed to UCSD, but USC came out, I got accepted. And then the last one to ever come out was the University of Miami, where I got waitlisted. So those are all my transfer decisions, and now I'm going to share why I ultimately decided to go to UCSD for data science. So like I said, my options were UCSD, UCI, UCSB, and USC. Those were like my 4 main schools that I would consider going to. My major is data science, and UCSD, if you do your research, UCSD, the Halilcioglu Data Science Institute, is actually one of the most renowned data science programs, at least for undergrad, but graduate too. It's one of the top data science programs in the nation. UCI is really good for data science too. They have their own department on campus, but it doesn't have the same prestige that UCSD does. And the same applies to UCSB. Now, rankings obviously are not the biggest factor for me. Like if I solely based my decision on rankings, I might have gone to USC instead of UCSD. Like I would have waited to go to USC, or waited for the USC decision to come out before committing so quick to UCSD. The reason I didn't go to USC was because when I applied, they had this weird rule that for transfers, the data science major is not directly available to apply for. The major is there as for USC students, but if you wanted to major in that, as a transfer, you'd have to apply for something else. And then assuming you get in and enroll there, then you can either switch to data science or add it as a major, do whatever you want once you get there, but you can't apply and get in for it. So I actually got in for applied math. And especially with USC being a private school, I didn't feel like paying double the tuition and doing so much extra work to get it, just to get the major I wanted when UCSD has a much better program for my major anyway. And when I started this whole community college transfer journey, my dream was to go to a UC. So when all the UCs were done releasing decisions, I pretty much just chose between the ones I had. I mainly applied to USC and the University of Miami and those other schools just because I just wanted to apply and see if I get in. Not necessarily because those schools were my top choices that I might actually consider over a UC. If I hypothetically didn't get into any UC, at least USC and UMiami were still good schools that I would consider going to. But once I had schools like UCSD and UCI as options, I pretty much wasn't considering anything else. And lastly, there's something about going to a campus where it feels like home, where school looks great on paper, but if you go to the campus and you enjoy the vibes there, then that's how you know the school is truly the right fit for you. So UCSD and UCI were my two best options on paper, right? But when I went to each campus, I just wasn't feeling it at UCI. It's a nice campus for sure, but I just wasn't, feeling like I would have a place there, I would thrive there. It didn't really have that sense of belonging that a hometown should have. And me being from San Diego, obviously might be a little biased, but when I went to the UCSD campus, it felt like home. I was enjoying the vibes at UCSD, especially because they're so welcoming to transfers. I felt like I could really thrive there, especially not only do they have such a good program for my major, but they have such a good community of transfer students. The vibes I got, the sense of belonging I got at UCSD did not match any other college campus I've ever visited in my life, even before I got admitted. So yeah, all in all, that is my transfer story, and I hope you guys got a new perspective on the transfer journey. Maybe if you're considering the transfer route, hopefully this video helped you decide whether it's community college is the right fit for you. If the reason you're so hesitant on going to community is the stigma, my advice is take it from me. I went to a school where there was so much stigma and I did not have to worry about money, and I went to community college anyway and it paid off. So that stigma will be there for a couple months, but you're gonna get over it very quickly. And if you have decided to go to community college, congratulations, I wish you the best. Hopefully you can use the tips and tricks that I shared in this video, even if you're not coming from the same background as me, even if you have a completely different major, set of circumstances, whatever. Hopefully there are some common elements of this video that apply to your own life that you can use to make the most out of your time in community college and transfer to the four-year school of your dreams. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Till next time.